Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Ariel Helwani Show!
All right, friends, some breaking news on this Friday afternoon. You know, all week long we've been talking about what's going to main event UFC 317, June 28th, International Fight Week. Is it going to be Ilya versus Islam? Is it going to be Ilya versus Charles? Is it going to be Dricus versus Khamzat? Is it going to be Khamzat versus Kyle? Well, as of right now, we actually don't know the answer to that question. But we do know what is going to headline UFC 318, and that is July 19th in New Orleans, in Louisiana, to be exact. Well, actually, New Orleans is in Louisiana. Anyway, for our international fans, you may not have known that Dustin Poirier was just on the Pat McAfee show, the great program that is the Pat McAfee show, and he just announced that his retirement fight is going to take place in his home state of Louisiana, and it's going to be against the man that he has fought twice before. Once in 2012 at UFC 143, and then another time in 2019. It's the great Max Holloway. The retirement fight will be at home against Max Holloway at UFC 318 for the BMF title. Now, this is a pretty big deal on multiple fronts. Number one, it's Dustin Poirier's retirement fight. He has called it as such. Most guys don't get to retire on their own terms. Most guys retire when they're taken out of the ring on a stretcher. There are some fighters that have had the opportunity to say, this is going to be my last fight. Very, 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 very rarely does a fighter get to say, this is going to be my last fight, and it's going to be in my home state. That's a big deal. That's a massive deal. He's from Lafayette. I mean, New Orleans, the biggest venue, of course, the biggest state, the biggest arena is in New Orleans. It's not going to be in Lafayette. So this is absolutely a dream for Dustin Poirier. It's just so significant because, again, if you're fighting in the UFC, if you're fighting in the, in the Indies, okay, that's one thing. Maybe you can dictate, you can have a small show, come back home, retire, put the gloves in the middle of the cage. But to do it as a member of the UFC just shows how much respect they have for him. And so maybe in the end, Dustin Poirier will never be an undisputed champion. Who cares? Who absolutely cares? It doesn't matter. It's the greatest. It's the absolute greatest respect that he can receive, that they would bring a show back home for him and allow him to retire in a high-profile fight against a beloved fighter like Max Holloway and get the fight for a BMF title. I'm delighted for him. Last time we saw Dustin Poirier in action was in June of last year in Newark against Islam. Didn't go his way. We thought maybe that would be it. He takes the year off, comes back for one more. The last time we saw Max Holloway in action was fighting for the belt at 145 pounds against Ilya Poirier. It didn't work out, and so we presume now he'll be back up at 155 to fight Dustin Poirier. I love everything about it. The fight makes sense for the two of them at this juncture in their career. They have a history. Their fight back in 2019 in Atlanta was an incredible fight, somewhat overshadowed by the fight between Kelvin Gastelum and Israel Adesanya. But you'll recall that was the night that Dustin won the interim title. So, a massive moment in his career against Max. And the talk was that Max was too small. He didn't have enough time to get big, to bulk up, all that stuff and more. And so this is an opportunity for Max to prove that he could beat the likes of Dustin Poirier. Obviously looked great against Justin Gaethje a little over a year ago now. And it's also an opportunity for Max to get a win over Dustin Poirier because he lost back at UFC 143, and he lost against him in 2019. That was UFC 236, I do believe. Also interesting, that fight back in 2012 was Max Holloway's UFC debut. I remember being there for that fight. Max was just 20 years old. He was a neophyte. He was a kid. We didn't know what he would become. Shortly thereafter, by the way, he did fight Conor McGregor, but he was so raw, he was so young, as was Dustin. Shaved head, fresh off WC. Had a few UFC fights, but not many up until that point, less than 5. So they've come a long way. And to see them now 13 years later, still going at it, still relevant, still going strong, Dustin Poirier can still compete in the UFC against the best. There's absolutely no doubt about that. He could still do that. But he is saying at this juncture, by the way, This will be his 41st pro fight, which is an incredible number. And, he just turned 36 back in January. So he's not the oldest guy. He could still hang. He could still do a few things. But I think he feels like this is it. He feels like enough is enough. And I respect it. He's done a lot. He probably feels like it's too long of a journey to get back to the title picture. He has talked about wanting to be healthy, wanting to be able to be with his family, with his daughter, to not let the game beat him. He's always been very cognizant of this. He's always been very aware of this. He's always been open about it, about the fears that come with sticking around too long. So for him to get the opportunity to go out on his own terms, to go out in front of his people in his home state is an incredible thing. I do believe it's going to be at the Smoothie King Center. That is the home of the New Orleans Pelicans. I am reading this on Uncrowned right now. Yeah, Smoothie King Center, of course. July 19th in his home state. This is massive. Now, no other fights have been announced, and it is very rare that the UFC would announce a pay-per-view main event and skip over another. But I think we'll get that IFW main event in due time. I think we'll get it. So let us know. Let us know in the comments. Do you like this fight? Who are you favoring? I don't know who the favorite is right now. Do you like this as a retirement fight for Dustin? Do you like this as a next step for Max? Does it bother you that the BMF title is on the line? What happens to the BMF belt if Dustin wins? Do they finally retire it, or do they just give it to someone else like they did, when they moved it from the 170 pounders to the 155 pounders? Does this make sense as a main event, in your opinion? A mid-July main event coming off a pay-per-view just a few weeks prior. Does it make sense for Max at this point to move back up to 155? Do you like this? Would you have preferred another retirement fight for Dustin Poirier? Answer all those questions for me in the comments section below, but just wanted to come on here and talk about pretty big news, pretty significant news. And personally, in short, I love it. I love it for Dustin. I think it makes sense for Max Holloway, and I love the fact that it's happening in New Orleans. So good on Dustin, good on Max for being that guy. He'll be a great dance partner throughout that week. He'll be great for Dustin, though. There won't be any animosity. He won't try to steal his shine or anything like that. I think it's going to be great, and I love the fact that the UFC is going back to New Orleans. New Orleans has long deserved a big show, a big main event. Remember, there was a time it was going to be DC and Ryan Bader, and that did not come to fruition. And so Dustin gets the big fight in New Orleans, which I'm sure he is loving that. He also announced, by the way, that he's going to be calling a pick at the NFL draft on Saturday for his beloved New Orleans Saints. I, too, will hopefully be there, God willing, leaving tomorrow morning to Green Bay to call a pick for my Buffalo Bills. I'm not sure which pick it's going to be, 4th, 5th, 6th, who knows, but I'll walk up there proud, with confidence, and presume that player is going to turn into a Hall of Fame. So it should be a great weekend. A ton of fights happening this weekend, by the way, from the UFC in Kansas City to Marius versus Eddie Hall in KSW to, of course, Conor Benn versus Chris Eubank. You got the FA Cup semis. You got the NBA playoffs. You got the NHL playoffs. You got the NFL draft. It's an insane weekend in the world of sports. And so I hope you have a great weekend and enjoy it all and watch it all. And then, of course, we'll talk to you on Monday about it all. All right, take care. Talk to you soon.